Good morning, security gang. Welcome back to the CyberHub Podcast. My name is James Azar. I'm the host and a Chief Information Security Officer. This is episode 997, 3 away from 1,000. Thank you all for tuning in this Tuesday morning, October 21st, 2025. Packed show for all of y'all today. We're catching up. And what I mean by we're catching up, I mean, obviously yesterday, the AWS outage, big deal. A lot of announcements of breaches. Very, very big deal. We're going to dig into what China exactly accusing the U.S. of in terms of hacking the national time. That's a first for China to actually, not a first, but it's new is what I'll say. So we'll get into that. We talked about it on the show yesterday, but we only had the accusation. Today we have the checks. So we'll get into that as well. A bunch of vulnerabilities and some good guys prevail. All of that and more on this morning's episode. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Here we go. Join me for my double espresso this morning. It's fantastic. If depending on the cup of coffee you enjoy in the morning, right? Some people like black coffee, some people like tea, and it's okay, whatever your beverage of choice is in the morning. Mine is a double espresso, obviously. I've got a elite espresso capsule that I got when I was in Israel this summer that I'm almost out of. I had a whole carry-on worth of espresso capsules for my Nespresso machine. I've got multiple espresso machines, by the way, but I've got beans. I've got a good old machine where you grind the beans and you kind of make your espresso. And then I've got my Nespresso machine, which is my favorite because I'm lazy sometimes. This is one of those mornings. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. Fantastic. All right. Let's get the ball rocking and rolling. So if you're living under a rock, you may have noticed that yesterday AWS had an outage that rippled across the entire internet. The widespread AWS incident took down or degraded major services for Amazon Prime Video, Snapchat, Canva, even banks, and some airlines reported issues. Reporting points to a problem around the internal DNS cascading into a DynamoDB access failure. Services were recovered gradually with a promised root cause analysis pending. So this was the incident yesterday from our friends over at AWS. And again, this one is, I'd say like it's an act of war. It's not cyber related. It's likely they made an update and someone in that update broke something, right? We've seen that happen before. It's happened to Microsoft, it's happened to AWS, it's happened to GCP. Every now and then, this happens. The question for me isn't we'd love to understand why this happened. But anyone who was like posting stuff yesterday saying, well, if your AWS is out, no. This happens once every 15 years. It's just don't. Save yourself the embarrassment. Don't do that. All right, we were like on key here, and now this has gone off key. So I don't like that at all. We'll move to our next story, where allegedly a SharePoint flaw led to attackers breaching a U.S. nuclear weapons plant. A foreign actor infiltrated the NNSA's Kansas City National Security Campus via an on-prem SharePoint bug, which was a remote code execution and spoofing, which was disclosed and patched in July. The attribution is contested by some of the folks who point to Chinese APTs, other to Russian actors, but the intrusion underscores some of the IT/OT adjacency risk at some of these sensitive manufacturers. Even when OT is segmented, that's still the case. Now with CMMC, nuclear facilities are under heightened cybersecurity. I mean, they don't even go under NERC-CIP. They have their own regulation, all in all. So you're looking at a lot of scrutiny into how exactly they got in and were able to disrupt that. And again, this goes to vulnerability management. We've said it on the show, I don't know how many times. Episode 997. Well, maybe we'll have to do like a search after the show and figure this out. But within 20 minutes of a reported CVE, they're scanning. Within 24 hours, there's an active exploit. So if you've got a CVE in your environment, like SharePoint, that allows lateral movement, you want to patch it quick, extremely fast. That would go a long way to do that. If you're wondering what to do this one, you should mitigate your SharePoint on-prem. You should also disable legacy authentication, moving to a more modern authentication system that actually has MFA. You want to monitor for web shells, and you want to validate OT segmentation with adversary emulation. All of those go a long way to helping there as well. And again, this one makes me nervous. Sorry, guys, we're off keel here. I should have checked this while we were waiting to get the show going. I did not. That's on me, so we'll have to realign some of these stories as we go along today. So Muji halts online sales after their supplier was hit with ransomware. Muji's Japan online store and logistics were disrupted after a delivery partner, Askell, suffered ransomware. Muji says stores outside of Japan operate normally while it assesses shipments impact and notifies customer. Japan in the crosshairs of this stuff, and we see it kind of very geographical, right? Like a few months ago was the UK with Marks and Spencers and Co-op and all of that. That just seems like yesterday. Jaguar Land Rover, they're kind of disappeared. Day 51 of their ransomware, they're just now starting to turn up manufacturing. But now we're seeing Japan. Talked about Japan. We had other companies in Japan. So again, a supply chain single point of failure hitting a CX and revenue is significant. That's a risk, and that's not a cyber risk. That's a business risk, right? And as security practitioners, we're in the business of risk and business enablement. And when we see stuff like this, the question should always be, well, do we have a backup? Does the backup cost us money? And if it does, how much? And when you don't, you become single-threaded. Single-threaded is a huge risk, right? You want to require 24-hour RTO and RPO and logistics SLAs. You should, obviously really review your vendors well and pre-stage comms for any sort of order delays there as well. We move to one of my favorite commercials on the planet. Have you guys seen the Daily Farmers of America, the DFA commercial? Like it's a little like bluesy, jazzy, country, like kind of thing. Love it. Great commercial. Dairy Farmers of America suffered a ransomware attack in June, and now we know the data leak. So they're now confirming personal data exposures, names, social security numbers, IDs, dates of birth, bank and Medicare and Medicaid numbers for employees and members. Remember, DFA is a co-op of farmers. Following the June attack claimed by the player ransomware, only 4,546 individuals were notified. Investigation closed on September 15th. And so all in all, there's a regulatory follow-up for the co-op in regards to this. And again, food supply chain, very, very significant from cyber risk. And we can obviously imagine that there will be some scrutiny of this type of attack, as well as what resources were missing in order to ensure that this does not risk the food supply chain ever again. All right. And there's a lot to do there. All right. We'll move from breaches to vulnerabilities, where the Dolby Digital Plus zero-click audio is coming into play here. And sorry, I just lost my so Dolby, you've obviously seen them in like movie theaters, right? Sound systems, but apparently they have something else that has a vulnerability here today. So let's get into that. Their audio decoder bug, which is a focus on Android. So Project Zero researchers detailed an out-of-bounds right in the DD plus decoder that can trigger on receipt of crafted.ec3 and .mp4 audio. No tap was needed at all. The RCS and auto transcription path were also impacted. The patch status is evolving. However, there is some mitigation. You can restrict auto download and auto play in messaging where it's applicable. EDR rules for suspicious media pipeline crashes. That's a big one if you're using it, and you want an MDM block list for vulnerable builds. That also goes a long way to addressing this vulnerability. WatchGuard is having almost 76,000 security appliances here are vulnerable to RCE. So let's get into this story this morning. And again, these things are offline. So Shadow Server counts just under 76,000 internet reachable Firebox appliances, still vulnerable to CVE 2025-90242, an OOB write-in exploitable through a crafted IKE version 2 packets. The affected firmware version span from 11.10.2 to 11.12.4_U1 to 12.0 to 12.11.3 and the 2025.1. And it's fixed in 2025 1.1, 12.11.4, 12.5.13, and 12.31.3, 0.1-_U3. So again, this is an edge firewall takeover type of risk with network and entry, VPN abuse, and even policy tampering. So you want to upgrade to the fixed releases, disable dynamic IKE v2 peers if not required, and remove public management, and then geo IP allow list admins. Again, and I say this to almost all edge devices, they should be locked down in that manner as well. While the government is on day 21 of the shutdown, the essential staff at CISO continues to do the Lord's work with with more and more vulnerabilities being added to the Kev catalog. Microsoft, Oracle, all being added. CISA added fresh Microsoft and Oracle items to their Kev catalog over the weekend, increasing pressure to patch by agency deadlines and influencing many private sector SLAs and matrix. So we've got a bunch of these in here. Let's take a look at this. So CVE 2022-48503 is a Apple product vulnerability that leads to code execution when processing web content. CVE 2025-33073, which is a Microsoft Windows SMB client and proper access control vulnerability. CVE 2025-61884, that's the Oracle EBS server-side request forgery. And then CVEs 2025-2746-2747, both have a 9.8 rated password authentication bypass issues in the Kentico Experience Staging Sync server. So all of those have been added to the Kev catalog, which means they're being actively exploited. So if they're in your environment and you haven't patched them yet, be a good idea to do so right now. We'll move to China. So China on Sunday accusing the NSA of carrying out a premeditated cyber attack. However, according to China, they used 42 tools against the National Time Service Center. So I'm going to just say this. I believe the Chinese the same way I believe Hamas, which is their anti-Western propaganda, exaggeration, save face type of organizations that are communist in nature. So, having said that, we're going to dig in to their statement. In a WeChat statement that alleges a multi-stage U.S. operation targeting Beijing's time infrastructure. Claims include forged certificates, VPS infrastructure, and even lateral movement towards precision timing systems. Regardless of the attribution, time services are critical dependency and mitigation for any operator of timing GNSS infrastructure. They harden Stratum servers, isolate time distribution networks, and even deploy spoofing and jamming monitors, as well as audit cert chains on some of those middleware items within the infrastructure. So China saying, hey, the U.S. NSA came in. This is what they tried to do, but they're claiming that the MSS claims that the agency repeatedly used stolen login credentials to break into computers at the center to probe its infrastructure. The platform activated what described as 42 specialized tools, mounting high-intensity attacks aimed at multiple internal network systems at the NTSC. So the Ministry of China said they neutralized the attack, implemented additional security measures, and they're blaming it on the U.S. No proof of attribution. But believe us, we China. I don't believe you, China. Sorry. Don't do it. Don't believe you. All right, we move to South Korea and scam centers. We've got two stories here back to back, folks, as we wrap up the show this morning. So South Korea moves to arrest reparated scam center workers after Cambodia reparated 64 South Koreans tied to the scam compounds. Prosecutors seek 58 arrests amid growing public pressure on the government to actually take action against these scam centers and the people that were operating in them. People lost millions and millions of dollars across all of Asia, from Korea to China, Russia, you name it. And what they were doing is they were selling people in different countries like China and South Korea and all of that, job opportunities in Cambodia and Myanmar. And the people would show up there, and then they would have their passports taken, and they would be forced to work in these scam centers and almost like a slavery, modern day slavery type of approach. And if anyone dare speak up, again, criminal groups run these. They were either killed, beaten, you name it. Some of them had their organs harvested. Really terrible stories as we were looking at this story here as well. And this kind of takes us to Myanmar finally succumbing to pressure to actually shut down their scam centers that operate in the country. And mind you, some of this stuff was operating in border areas, right? Like within quick border areas there. And that's really, really significant. So, and the reason I say that is because that's how they were bringing people in and out. So state media in Myanmar is saying that the military raided a large scam hub near the Thai border, detaining 2,000 people, seizing dozens of Starlink terminals. These compounds are tied to global romance, investment fraud, and even OTP bypass schemes. Officials framed this as part of a broader anti-scam push, even with the crackdown operations often reconstitute elsewhere, meaning they'll just move them somewhere else because they're just so profitable. All of that is true. As we wrap up this morning's show, I'll point you to our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. Over the weekend, I wrote an exclusive article for our members that will be available for everyone on Sunday, meaning talking about China's backdoor by design, China's long game against America's supply chain, and the real economic bill, where we dug into the actual economic damage of some of these attacks and what they cost all the economy altogether. This was kind of a lesson out of F5, but all of our paid articles at some point do become free. So if you're not a paid member, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You can just go and check them out. They're great reads for the weekend. Really kind of our thought pieces there as well. One of the things that came out of this yesterday's AWS thing is resilience drills. Do you have those? Have you done them? Really smart to kind of look at that and maybe add that to something you're planning to do maybe Q1 or Q2 of next year. It's not a bad idea. All right. With that being said, that's it for our show. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern live with all the latest cybersecurity news. Please make sure to subscribe, follow, share, like, and comment. And until then, have a great rest of your day. Most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.